Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing and digital agency.
We're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview some of the top business leaders in the industry. Yes, and
very excited today. Helping provide us with business empowerment is Eric Alexander. Eric is the director of Vision Long Island, and it's a downtown planning organization, and he's also with the Main Street Alliance. Eric, welcome to the show today.
Great to be here, Ray. Great to be here, Denise. Thank you for having me. This is a fun show, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're excited. Now, we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to kind of jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of started doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, look, suburban white guy, middle-aged. At this point, I'm 25 years in with the organization Vision Long Island, and we're running the Long Island Main Street Alliance over the last 3 years. I kind of came to it by accident. I ended up on the board of a group called Vision Huntington was forming. Mm-hmm. And it was really just a group that was trying to revitalize downtown Huntington in the mid-90s. And it was really like, how do we make, about a third of the stores were vacant at the time. It wasn't the thriving place it was now, is now. And I got involved, had a housing community development background. So I just kind of got into this whole, how do we, with a whole team of people, how do we revitalize a downtown? We were traveling all over the country figuring out how suburban areas remake themselves back in the mid-90s. It was like a thing, other places. And it took us a while in Long Island to figure out, because everyone out here in the 90s was like, downtowns are dead. Go to the big box stores, go to the mall. Right. I don't know what you're talking about. People laughed you out of rooms. They're like, you care about downtowns? Why? Like, it doesn't matter. Go to a chain store, go to a chain restaurant. It's silly.
And yeah, you're losing a huge experience. I mean, the Main Street thing, I can't even imagine Huntington not being what it is now, that thriving village. And we've done a lot to kind of replicate that. In other areas like Patchogue now.
Well, Patchogue was Bay Shore was actually one of the earlier ones. Then Patchogue and Farmingdale came on kind of simultaneous. But Port Jeff has been a kind of steady stream. Rockville Center, have really come up. And now you see Riverhead is coming on strong. So there's a number. There's actually 40 downtowns plus that have some form of revitalization underway, and there's probably about 10 premier ones that are real clear destinations that people go to. I get in trouble on shows like this when I pick winners and losers on that because they all argue over each other. Glen Cove's arguing with Westbury and, but then you go to a place like Hicksville that has so many different culinary experiences from so many different cultures that while the downtown doesn't look great yet, there are so many great places to eat and be kind of enriched culturally. You kind of like, it blows your mind a little bit. You're like, wow. So Long Island has so many emerging downtowns and experiences that you can spend your days staycationing, and I think people have been with the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. And I don't think anybody cooks on Long Island on Friday or Saturday nights. Right. Every single restaurant, if it's anything decent, it's completely packed. It's just crazy.
No, it's good for our downtown. It's good for our local business. I know it's what you guys care about here.
Absolutely. And I do attest to that because with places to go for children and just, the single life, Rockville Center is thriving because we can bring young people, millennials, back to Long Island, and they have a place to hang out and really give back to the community as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's a real intergenerational experience because 75 is the new 65, 65 is the new 55. The boomers aren't dead yet. They're very active and alive, and some are divorced and they're out, and Gen Xers too, and the millennials, and this emerging Gen Z. I think there's this large swath of people that want a place-based experience. They want to go somewhere, do a series of things and not be tied to the car for every little task. So to be able to park, walk, or live and walk Those are the types of places that have been emerging for over 20 years. And thankfully, we have been able to create those experiences. And, it's about 15,000 units of this transit-oriented development in downtown housing that has been approved. We got another 10,000 coming down the pike, and we need more. We've had folks from the city come out here, take some of those units, through the coronavirus. So we're like, guys, let's make the city better so folks can go back. Yeah, but because a lot of our people need to stay on Long Island too.
Right. And traditionally, Long Island is not a walking city, county, Nassau and Suffolk. So that's amazing.
Well, the last 60 or so years, prior to the last 20, had been the experiment of suburbanization with the car, where you drive everywhere. You drive to the office park, you drive to the retail mall, you drive to your residential development, sometimes behind a gate, and it's all order oriented. The last 20 years, the smart growth movement, the downtown planning movement has said, you know what? Some areas of Long Island can be walkable. Let's go back to our old historic downtowns. When you look at the old historic photos, you see 4-story buildings and you're like, huh? How is there a 4-story building there? Now there's a 1-story building. It's like because they had wood frame construction, but they had these older buildings that people would live above the stores. Mm-hmm. And so if you go back to your historic photos, we're just kind of saying, let's go back to kind of what we had, just modernize it, and make these places real destinations like they were at the turn of the century, 19th century.
Yeah. And that's what makes things special on Long Island, because if it's really big box versus Amazon, there's no comparison. It's like there's no experience, so I'll just go with Amazon because it's cheap, it's convenient. Right. But I think people, especially now that we're out of the pandemic, are really craving that. I want to reach out and touch whatever it is I'm buying. I want to have that experience. I want to spend time with my friends. I want to go to the mall. I want to park in a municipal lot, and then I want to go shopping, and then I want to go to the Paramount and see a show, and then I want to, have drinks afterwards. People are really craving that
I think
return.
So. And they also want to know their local shopkeeper.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to know Emily. They want to know Joe. So, and that's really, touch point is really important for people these days.
I think Long Island is a hyper-local place in general. We're not really a region. We are a community of communities, I always say. And so in that sense, Long Islanders were fiercely local through the coronavirus to their local businesses and really kept them in business. The Shop Local movement we work with the Nassau Chambers and Suffolk Chambers on the Shop Local movement, and it's stronger than ever. Whenever you do the Shop Local events, there's like 30 different downtowns that are embracing them with formal, very active events. But just in general, Long Islanders, whether through the coronavirus with the takeout, but just going downtowns were very active through the coronavirus. Whereas sadly, some, places outside downtown, we don't want any business to do poorly. We're not as busy. Some of the strip malls had higher vacancy rates than the downtowns.
Absolutely.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about Vision Long Island and about the Main Street Alliance? Can you give us some specifics around that?
Sure. Vision Long Island's a 25-year-old downtown planning organization. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit. We do promotion of downtowns. We do lobbying for infrastructure dollars in Washington and Albany to get our fair share. We do planning. We get hired as planners by community people and municipal leaders to get us to plan a downtown or kind of remake certain elements of a community with the community. And, we have an email newsletter that goes out to 25,000 people. We do have a talk show that, Long Island Main Street News that we produce, and we do some charity with the Pink Tie Foundation too. So we're busy in a bunch of areas, but we're largely focused on downtowns and bringing infrastructure dollars in. And our Main Street Alliance is more grassrootsy because we have 45 downtowns in that Main Street Alliance, and they're actual chamber leaders, mayors, or civic leaders in each of those communities that are on the calls or the meetings. So we hear from real people that do things in real places. So we get immediate feedback as to what's happening. So we're not just some top-down not-for-profit with some kind of strange vision. We actually bottom up. We hear from the folks what the needs are, and then we can decide to act or help or do mutual aid or lobby together, do a press conference together, so it's kind of a demand response thing.
Very good. You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Eric Alexander. He's the director of Vision Long Island and the Main Street Alliance. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you've been working on?
Yeah, so I think through the years we've been part of different downtown initiatives. We've done some planning, and we started in Huntington. And, we planned Farmingdale. So we're now, we just wrapped up Westbury and doing their transit-oriented development plan. We're now in Valley Stream. So really trying to basically, when we do a plan for a community, it's with community input. And then there's new zoning codes that go in to change what maybe some of the buildings may be and get new development and new investment in the community, guided by the community. So Valley Stream's one of the newer places that we're working in. We're also working in Central Islip, Kings Park, and Mastic. We've been pulling in funding for sewers because those downtowns couldn't grow without them having sewer service, because you're working off cesspools. You can't have a restaurant working off cesspools. It's going to be a pretty small restaurant, and there's not too many seats, very exclusive. They're pumping it out every week. So, it's a problem. So that's why some of our downtowns in Suffolk County, the 70% of sewer haven't had growth. So, in the communities in Suffolk, we're trying to get sewers. Also Central Islip, trying to get sewers in there. So that's those are a couple of the places. In downtown Hicksville, we're trying to get off the ground. We got the zoning code changed. The first few projects are coming into place. So we do these kind of community visionings and plans with folks, and then we try to implement them. So it's not just a report that's done. It's actually executed in a way that the community sees real wins. We just did one visioning in Deer Park, and everybody's like, "What can you do in Deer Park?" It's like, well, the community wants to see some kind of downtown elements, and we got to figure out where. And first, we got to figure out, do they want that?
Right.
We went through a whole session with 200 of their leaders and to sort that out. Now we got to figure out what's viable. So it's an emerging planning process. But overall, we're trying to make sure that all of the downtowns across the island, we had a Main Street Alliance meeting last week, are lifting off. We have a good summer. Some people were talking about coronavirus coming back and new restrictions, and people were like, "Oh my God, no, please, no." So, and then making sure that folks get their fair share of funds from the public dollars that come down the pike. Like even the state program that still has $300 million left, the COVID relief fund, the state did, to their credit. It's wonderful. 3 out of 4 businesses we speak to didn't even know about it. So we think, because we hear it a million times, we know about it. Everyone's tired of talking about it. We're tired of talking about it. Right. But you're talking to regular people, regular businesses on the street. They didn't even know it's available to them. And so some people are applying and getting money. Wow. So it's accessing the resources that are out there. It's not even about lobbying for more sometimes, So we're in kind of that frame. Let's get the right resources to Long Island.
Yeah, so now some business owners are a part of chambers. Can they also join the Vision 2020 organization?
Yeah, so they can. We're not a membership organization, so we don't turn anyone away. We don't want to take their money, essentially, because we want them to join the chamber. It's critical they join the chamber. We have 2 fundraisers a year. You can buy tickets to our, we have a Smart Growth Awards luncheon. We have a summit that we do in November. So if folks want to donate to us, wonderful. We have supporters, but as far as members, we're pretty open, and we encourage people, if their business is in Baldwin, join the Baldwin Chamber, and we'll help you. Baldwin's part of our Main Street Alliance, so we'll be comrades in arms to get things done. But and they could come to our events. But you can check us out on Facebook for all that stuff, and we'd love to have people plug in. But we're not trying to cannibalize. What happens is too many groups, too many people asking for money. We don't want to be a problematic to our partners. Join the chamber, your local chamber.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, are there challenges that are kind of this similar with each project that you work on, or is every project unique, or what are some of the challenges that you face on your day-to-day with these things?
Day-to-day for us is trust. Mm-hmm. The public does not trust right now in this time. Looking 35 years of public life, I've been working in various roles, even before Vision. I've not seen this lack of trust out there. Big business, big not-for-profit, big media, big big government, whatever it is, people are just like, ugh. And so we try to keep, our strategy is to keep everything hyper local. Because on the local level, people still kind of trust each other. They at least know each other. Right. Whether they may not trust it, but they kind of accommodate each other, on some level. The chamber knows the civic knows the mayor, the council person, and, people know the old-time political families. They may know the fire department or the school district or some people on their block or some civic associate. There's generally 100 people in every community who are active and present and do stuff, and you can get a cluster of them to work together. Generally, it's not so polarized. So we try to keep everything on a hyper local level. But the biggest challenge is just as an outsider, because I live in the one community I live in, and we have 2 offices in the 2 communities we have offices in, and that's about as street cred as you can do. So what I do whenever I go to communities, I make sure I'm invited in. I literally talk to people in that neighborhood before I show up and say, hey, I'm coming to your neighborhood, or I'm reminding you invited me to this, right? Yes. They send me a text. So if somebody says, who's this strange bald guy in my neighborhood talking about planning? I say, no, we're working with the chamber. We're working with the civic. We're working with this group or that group. And here's the public benefit, the tangible public benefit that's going to, come out of this work. And you constantly have to be humble enough to know that people generally, the era of well-dressed people walking into neighborhoods telling them what's best for them is long over.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And that's the biggest challenge, is telling the people that do that to stop doing that and be humble and respectful and work with people in a partnership mindset. And I have to train the elites to stop doing bad things that makes things worse. That's a daily chore, and then social media is the big challenge too, because you'll get people who, maybe strange state of mind, going through some strange problems with their lives, and they spend a lot of time with just a kernel of truth and a lot of strange comments. Mm-hmm. And it just goes, it's not a place to have a dialogue or work with anybody, so community people get involved in that. So I got a problem with the elites, and then I got a problem with the social media people. When you carve them out, lots of stuff can get done. Right. Lots of stuff can get done.
Yeah, and it's tough because I can see how people fall into the traps of not trusting, and I feel like all these things are very complex. Sometimes they're more complex than they need to be. And then it's, who do you trust to go and decipher that information and to be helpful to you? I can understand how there's so much misinformation and so many bad actors, because it's unfortunate. There are spots where people could take advantage. Who do you typically work with? I know you said you work with some of the chambers, you work with some of the elected officials, but when you're starting projects like this, who's kind of where you start with?
Yeah, I mean, usually we get 3, we fit between the civic and chambers that are in local communities, the governments, various levels of government, and then the development and small business community and business community. Our group is somewhat in between all of them. We're not owned by any one, but we have to work with all of them because they all have a stake. The developers may own the land, or the property owners. The civics and the chambers want to decide what's happening in their neighborhood, and then the local government's trying to manage it all and figure what do we approve? What do we do? So we provide a role in either linking all 3 or providing support to one or the other. So in my given day, any one of them will be reaching out to us. Developer may say, I have this property. What should I do? Who do I talk to? Mm-hmm. Elected officials say, we may have this code that we're working on. Is this going to help us or hurt us? Someone wants us to go an extra story. Can we manage that with the parking? What are the parking requirements? I have an architect planner on staff who kind of sorts that stuff out, and I have a 48-member board. So we have some technical expertise that we can lean on, when we're in a crunch. And then the civic and the community, I've mentioned a couple times, I'm bald and chunky, and they say, Alexander, you're like the Dr. Phil of planning. You go into the community, get beat up a little bit, and listen to everybody, though, and try to work out some meaningful ideas with community leaders as to how they can get to some kind of yes. So it's not just a no. On any given day, we're talking to real people in real places about revitalization.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Eric Alexander, Director of Vision Long Island, Downtown Planning Org, Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
All right, Eric, I know you don't want to play any favorites, so I'm not going to ask you to play favorites, but
sure.
Can you talk about a specific project that just kind of give us a story about, how things developed and then how it turned out to be a successful revitalization?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I'd say downtown Farmingdale is the most known one that we did a planning effort in 2005, and we thought we were ready to go. And then, different mayor came in and everything was on hold for 4 years. So there were more and more vacancies on the main street because nothing got done. And we were terrified. New mayor got in and, so we did the whole vision, we did the whole plan. And we're like waiting at the starting gate. The good news is, while that mayor was not deciding anything, we jumped over the 2008, 2009 recession and by the time we got the mayor in 2011, it was ready to rock. We got past it. And so we lost a cycle, but it actually might have been the best thing because that was a tough time for investment. And within 2012, the projects were approved. 23 of the 25 vacancies on Main Street were filled because the residential housing that was approved brings feet on the street, brings real people onto the main street. Right. And the Farmingdale today that's thriving is radically different than the one 10 years ago, in 2010 and 12 years ago. And it's a destination place on Long Island. And it's what's great about it, what we love, it's only 3.5-story buildings. So you don't have to feel like there's this big invasion of monster developments. You can build a downtown. So to all the people who are like, I don't want to look like Queens, you can build a downtown that fits within Long Island's character and make it awesome.
Right.
Anywhere. I was trying to tell the Wantagh people that. They're like, no more than 2 stories. I'm like, guys, come on, 3.5 stories. Come on, what are we talking about here? Relax. I mean, you got a great Mulcahy's place, okay, but you could do other things, and they're not ready. It's fine. But there are other communities that are ready. And I think I love Farmingdale as a model because it's 400 units of housing, but they did some affordable housing, and then they brought in great restaurants, and then they do the events, and they're really well managed as a village, So, and they do the right promotions. So they kind of bat for the cycle on all the good things that downtown should do, as does Patchogue and many other places. But they're just in the center of the island, and they didn't go so big on the development scale that I think a lot of Long Islanders who are resistant can feel comfortable. So that to us is a winner.
There's a lot that you're involved in. I'm sure there's a lot of room for misconception. What would you feel is kind of the misconception that people might have about what you do?
I think people look at anybody and they try to understand the motives behind people, and they say, so if I'm talking about a development project, you're like, he's paid off by the developers. Okay, if I'm beating up a developer about a project, they're like, the civics are in his pocket and the civics are trying to kill my project. So who's he working with? It's, if I'm talking to a certain government official who's a Republican, they'll say, I saw him in a picture with a Democrat. This is political, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's like we're bipartisan. There's some developers that support us, but we've been joyfully hostile to some developers who steamroll over communities. We don't like that behavior, so we call them out. Some civics are wonderful and they want to get things done in their community as they should, but then there's some communities who have their heads in the sand. They don't want to see any kind of growth at all, and we call them out. So we're really truly in the middle on so many different levels, but I think people expect polarization. Mm-hmm. They expect extreme thinking. And so if you're talking about development, you must be for everything every developer wants to do. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. And if you're defending a civic community, you must be a NIMBY or you're against growth. It's like everybody wants to throw you to the extremes. And it's like, I can't live in the extremes in the work we do. We get so much input in any given day that we got to balance it. We got to try to get people to kind of maneuver together in some way. And so, so they're always trying to, it's like magnets. They're trying to pull you. And it's like, you're a racist. Oh, you're not, you're against this. And it's like, it's like you're not patriotic. You're not a Trump person. It's like, I don't know. I don't think I'm a racist. Maybe you can say, white people are racist. And some people say that. And it's like, just because I've waved a flag doesn't mean I'm a Trump person wandering around, with on the back of my pickup truck. It's like, so everybody's trying to pin you into some kind of strange place,
Right.
You know,
you just want to do good.
You just want to get stuff done, man.
And so let me ask you, so for communities that are impacted by fires and like the downtown of Lakeview burned down and I drive, what do they do? What do they do to get the ball rolling? Is it starting with the civic? Because they don't have a chamber.
Yeah, they don't have a village. It's really
they don't have anything.
The unincorporated areas on Long Island have some of the biggest challenges because they don't have someone managing place. I mean, think about it. A mall has a manager. You know, any kind of property, has a manager. There's someone in charge. And unincorporated hamlets don't have that. They have a broader town that you kind of react to, they react to, and they don't have someone that just looks at that one area. So you kind of have to get some place-based group together. Usually I encourage businesses and the residents to work together because the electeds can't say no to everybody. Once they usually like to say, well, the chamber wants this, the civic wants that, we'll do nothing because they're arguing. Get them to work together and then kind of work with whoever your council person is to say, these are some of the improvements or investments we want to see, public, private, let's get rolling. And, Lakeview has to be Cynthia Cooper years ago with Lakeview 21st Century. remember her from like 20 years ago who did amazing work. There was a place-based group then. I don't know where that group is, but it's like, the next generation of that group, but when you have that kind of active cluster of folks, things can get done, and you can say, let's do an overlay district for a particular area where you want to see growth and redevelopment. You don't want to see growth and development everywhere, but you want to see it, just in a particular area. So you can control it. You can control growth, but you have to accept some.
Right.
You can't just say no to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Eric, we're going to have to wrap up soon.
Sure.
So what's the one thought you want to leave people with? And then please give us your contact information where people can find you.
Sure. I would say, in the time we're taping this, we're in a horrific time, and thinking about the tragedies of gun violence. And it's just, the polarization everybody's having and politicization of everything. Mm-hmm. We have to discipline ourselves to cut that out of at least planning our communities and investing in our communities and spending dollars in our communities. We have to kind of cut out all that stuff. We need to get into a post-divisive space and look at people differently. And if we can get to that, we can get so many great things done in our community. I mean, there's public dollars, there will be private investment, and Long Islanders are fiercely loyal to their neighborhoods and communities. Great things can happen. We've seen it over the last 25 years. The future is very bright, but people have to kind of get rid of the division and focus locally. And you can reach us, visionlongisland.org. And then on Facebook, Vision Long Island is our website. And every weeknight at 8 p.m., we do our Main Street News show.
Well, we want to thank you for being with us, Eric.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tanisha, Ray.
And we'll go with DV's philosophy.
The image of a community is fundamentally important to its economic well-being. If all places look alike, if there's no reason to go anywhere.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. This is an NCC Foundation production. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.